Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Infinite Horizon. Sadly, we are still Henryless today, so hopefully Henry will be feeling better soon, and we will have him back. Um, but in the meantime, we've got all our regular folks. Um, yeah, so welcome everyone. Let's see. Before I go, trying to decide if there is. Sorry, I'm looking over my notes. Uh, which I did take for today. If there's anything that I need to say, so there is at least a small chance. I'll say this ahead of time so that we don't like. Well, there's at least a small chance that we may not be here next week. So just keep an eye out for that. The, a unfortunate um collision of people being absent or not feeling well, and they all kind of just. So there's a small chance that we won't be here next week, but there's also just as much of a chance that we will. So just be aware. We'll keep you up to date. Um, let's see. Will says be or be not. There is no try or something like that. You know what? We'll we'll see what happens. Anyway, um, but yeah, I'm trying to think if there's other big stuff. I think we can just kind of get in. Does anybody else have any of you guys have anything you want to say? Okay. All right. Well,
Wait, actually,
yes.
tweet with the hashtag mailed it today. We're trying to save the post office. Someone will buy us there's I think Samantha B or something. They're buying stamps for every person who tweets that the post office is an invaluable resource and we should be supporting it. So
I actually
do
did not
that
know about
today.
that, so thank you.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well then, um with that, we are going to go ahead and get started. So, we'll see you back in a second after our intro that I never get tired of. Here we go. Some will say this is the end. We're surrounded, but we won't give in. No. Who will save us? Who will save us? Sometimes you gotta let it go. Leave it up to the hero. Who will save us? Who will save us? When the truth's in the shadows, all hail to the heroes. They're gonna save us. Yeah, save us. Yeah, save us today. And we're back. Hi, everybody. Sorry,
Nothing going on here.
I'm nothing going on. Nothing, no, certainly no last minute scrambling happening while the intro was going. Nothing like that at all.
Never.
There is no war in
Where
Bossing
we
Bay.
run a tight ship here at Rule of Lore. Always put together and completely professional. Anyway, uh, all right. So previously on Infinite Horizon, let me switch away from the. There we go. So previously on Infinite Horizon, after completing a successful heist, listen, you got what you came for. It
Yeah, that's fair.
the in
Is that the
between
mark of a
stuff.
successful heist?
I mean, sure, you got there
You
and
were
you
not
left.
undetected.
Look, you got there. You left with what you came for. Everything that happened in the middle doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll take that.
um, but coming off of a successful heist, the crew of Awakener um got did a few last minute preparations, such as constructing a containment for the artifact, this mysterious artifact that has been known to create creatures known as the Warped, um, who sort of mindless human or humanoid zombie-like individuals. Um, so containment was important and necessary. So Bina kind of, with the help of Abriel and I think was the professor helping. I think he might
A
have
lot
been.
of people were involved.
A lot of people were involved. They put together some temporary containment. Um, there were some mysterious happenings, such as everybody feeling like that feeling when there's like a statue or a painting, and everywhere you move in the room, it feels like it's looking at you. Well, yeah, kind of that feeling with around the artifact. And Mason, who kind of went and looked at
Yeah.
it. Mason kind of went and looked at it for a while and lost some time while just sort of sitting there staring at it. Um, so, uh, after all that, however, there were a few. There was some contacting of Wire that happened. Wire informing the crew that they needed to come back because she thought she might have a lead. Um, but asked them if they would swing by and pick up Zaya on the way back. Zaya, who was unaware of this uh, exchange,
Surprise!
was no less grateful for the rescue as the crew of Awakeners seemed to show up right in the perfect moment to evacuate Zaya and her companion, a human by the name of Becker Shaw, who was later revealed to be another powered individual, um, with the power of creating small, localized portals. Um, so, in all that, there was a conversation that Bina had with Alma, where Alma sort of was somewhat despairing at not having any memory of her past experience prior to waking up, and sort of wondering if that was in any way going to affect who she is and who other people saw her as, if there was ever a point where she got her memory back. But following that, reuniting on Sulon, the asteroid city, or rather, I should say, the city inside of a hollowed out asteroid. Um, they reunited with Wire, who informed them that she had been searching for some time for another ship like the one that the crew of Awakener had first awoken on, that is to say, transporting supers who had not yet been conditioned for the purposes of the corpse, and was happy to inform them that not only had she located rumors of one of these transports, but that it would in fact not just be moving these supers, but also Abriel's sister, who was being held hostage by Silverbreak. Um, there was still some work to be done to determine exactly where it was leaving from and where it was going to, but that was work that was going to take some time. And in the meantime, the crew of Awakener, Wire asked them to hang around for a while. There was, of course, some tension between Wire and Zaya, the usual amount, but additional tension with the presence of Becker. So, a whole bunch of stuff that all kind of happened, and I think that's more or less where we left off, right? Did I miss anything? Anybody?
There was a
Mason
Mason had a
Oh,
memo.
right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Mason, Wire informed Mason that she had intercepted a message that was intended for him, and from someone named Maya, whose location data she was able to scrub. Wire was able to scrub from the message itself, preventing anybody from tracing it anywhere. But she had made a copy of the message and handed it to Mason, who seemed pretty affected by that situation. But yeah, so all of that happened last time. So I think that is where we're going to pick up. So we will begin. So for everybody's awareness, for the audience as well, I informed everyone at the end of last game that this game was going to be kind of like last session was supposed to be sort of the downtime episode, but it ended up being more of the leading up to downtime episode. So this is the real downtime episode, during which time, so that you guys all know what's happening as well. there's probably gonna be somewhere in the vicinity of about a month of downtime here on Sulon while plans are drawn up and information is gathered. During which time you can do a bunch of stuff. But we're gonna start out tonight's episode kind of in the immediate following of the of last episode, and then we'll sort of montage our way through the ensuing month or so. So we'll start up kind of the next day. Your arrangements with that Wire was going to make for an apartment have not yet concluded, so you've all kind of been forced to spend the night at your choice of Wire's cramped little underground hacker's den, or you can go back to Awakener. So what do y'all think?
I mean, the less we're out and about, probably the better. For now, at least.
Yeah.
We have she has an apartment or something that's going to be set up for us in the future, but for now, maybe we just send word back to Awakener that we're just going to chill for a second.
Okay. Sounds good. If I remember correctly, Olim decided to stick around on Awakener.
Yeah.
To keep an eye on the artifact, and I believe Abriel and Patch.
Yes.
Are both on the ship.
Are both
Yeah.
on the ship. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause with us is Alma,
Jade.
Jade, the three of us, and the professor.
Right. Yep.
What a crew.
All right. So you're choosing to stick around temporarily in Wire's hacker den. That's what I'm gonna call it from now on, because clubhouse. Yeah,
Love it.
I can't think of a better term for it. So like hacker den, clubhouse,
Hidey hole.
hidey hole.
Wire key.
There you go.
Listen, I was coming up with last game. I came up with like 10 words or what to call it. We'll keep coming eventually throughout the game, but that's all I got for now.
All right, sounds good. So the next day sees you all sort of hanging out, because there's not really much to do, and Wire sort of not only maybe once during the day having come out from behind her sort of like divided area where she keeps mostly her main computer. Mason, when you were in there, you also would have noticed that there was like a small cot in there as well, which appears to be where Wire mostly sleeps. There was more room taken up by computers and technological equipment than there was by living equipment. So if that gives you any more insight into Wire, that
Mason just goes wide-eyed for like a second, and then
yeah. So during this particular day, we'll say Peach, you'd probably be the one most likely to be paying attention during when this is happening. You can see one of the few times that Wire actually does come out from behind the dividers. She walks over to the sort of large bank of screens that's against one wall as she's sort of leaning over the console, looking intently up at the screens and back at the console. You can see Becker, who's sitting not too far away, watching her as she's doing this, kind of looking, just seeming like he's not looking at what she's doing. He's watching her. Kind of, you can tell that he is kind of looking for any kind of like reaction. He's got that kind of posture, like he's ready, like kind of almost on the defensive. And then he just sort of he stands up and walks over to stand next to her, and you can hear just barely. You can hear him say, "Anything I can help with?" And she just, in response, just kind of, and he just sort of stands there, looking between her and the screen, and he says, "Is this what you're working on right now? And she doesn't let him finish. She just stops what she's doing. She just looks up at him. She says, "Why are you here?" And he looks at her and says, "I mean, she says, "I didn't ask for your help." She says, "I've never asked for your help." She says, "What, you think because of this?" Is it because of this? And she holds up her one like cybernetic arm. It's because of this. Is it because of her? And points kind of towards Zaya, who is still just sort of like, still very groggily waking up, just sort of rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. He says, "Look, we're all on the same side here, right?" She says, "Yeah, doesn't mean we have to work together." And then she just walks past him, away from the bank. Um, he stands there, just sort of like stricken for a moment, and then looks up and like makes eye contact with you, Peach, and he just sort of
Oh, that was a little rough.
he looks over his shoulder and then back at you and walks across the room towards you. He says, "Heard that, did you?"
Yeah, it wasn't exactly super discreet.
No, I suppose not. He sits down next to you. Yeah.
So, you guys have some beef?
It's hard to describe it that way when it's purely one-sided. He just kind of looks over and then looks back at you and just says, it's a long story, but the short version is that
I just kind of glance over at Zaya as he's talking, and then back to him.
she's not paying attention. She's clearly unaware. Right now she and Jade are like hunched over the table, just sort of like conspiratorially, just sort of speaking, and he just says, "It's not what you're thinking. It's He just shakes his head. Those two used to be extremely tight.
Mhm.
I was the first thing that they ever fought over. Well, maybe not the first thing, but definitely the first fight that they couldn't quite get past. Zaya was a friend of mine back from our ascendancy days, and when I escaped from Silverbreak's bullshit, she's the only person I trusted, the only person I could reach out to, and she wanted to help me. Wire didn't think it was a good idea. Didn't know who we could trust, she said. Anybody could be working for Silverbreak, especially somebody who just conveniently escaped, somebody who conveniently had history with one of them. I get it. It makes sense, but
Zaya wanted to take the chance.
yeah. I'm glad she did, but sometimes I've seen how it's affected her, and sometimes I wonder if things would have been different for them if she'd just let me go. But he shakes his head and says, she'd never do that.
Yeah, she seems like a loyal friend. And
Yeah.
you shouldn't blame yourself for their difficulties. I think that they still care about each other.
Oh, they definitely do, but doesn't mean that there's not a lot of stuff that they'll have to work through. And my being here isn't making it any easier to do that.
Well, I think we might need you, and all hands on deck, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually thinking about a way I could do both, be out of the picture and still be helping. I might not stick around for too much longer. I have some people from my days in intelligence that they still owe me a few favors, and might be able to track down the location of this ship you all are looking for.
Oh, that would be very, very appreciated, but don't feel like you have to go just because you're pissing Wire off. I'm sure she can handle it.
Pissing Wire off is a low bar. That's not what I'm worried about. It's a combination of that and the fact that I think I could do more to help being out there doing what I do best.
With some contacts.
Some contacts, a few portals here and there, maybe some false identities, the whole package.
Well, have a good time.
I'm not leaving yet, but it'll probably be soon. This place always did feel a little too claustrophobic for me.
I don't know what you mean. I think it feels like home sweet home.
Yeah. Anyway, you want something to eat? I'm gonna see about getting something.
Yeah, I mean, last time we were on Sulon trying to get something to eat, we got apprehended by authorities. But if it's a calmer version of that, I'd be happy.
I mean, I can always pick up a tail if it'll make it feel more like the old days.
I think we could do that on our own pretty easily, so maybe not.
Fair enough. And he looks
I
over.
want him to come back with lots of nuts from the food court.
He looks over at Zaya and he says, "Hey, don't drink all the coffee." As she's like pouring herself some, she looks over, she says, "Screw you," and just takes a drink. He says, "I'll be back in a bit." He picks up his coat off the back of a chair and as he stands up, he turns back to you and says, "Word of advice? Don't get in the middle of that. It's a bad place to be." And he kind of throws his coat over his shoulder and starts making his way towards, like, up the stairs. You can hear the clanking of metal as his boot falls hit the stairs.
Poor third wheel.
Bina, in the midst of all this, you currently
Chaos.
yeah, you and Alma are just sort of in one corner, basically where like a whole bunch of like bedrolls had been like laid out on the floor, like all like next to each other, crowded together. You and Alma are still kind of like over there. Jade comes back over, having finished his conversation with Zaya, and he sits down with a bowl of a really kind of sad looking bowl of cereal, because there's not much cereal in it, and he's just sort of kind of eating, just sort of looking around. He says, "This place is really cool."
No, I was looking at all of I really want to look at the door. Maybe
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Says, Did you see the hardware over there? And he kind of points to the corner where there's a
She
bunch.
kind of like she like snaps her head because she didn't see it.
Yeah.
She's like,
He says,
where?
right over there. He says, "I'm pretty sure that's a really new model of console." He says, "I'd love to have one of those in the engine room. Could you imagine the processing power? How much faster we could do all of our diagnostics?"
Maybe Wire could hook us up.
Can she do that?
I don't know.
Oh, if she can do that, I'm gonna have a whole shopping list for her.
We'll ask her. We'll see. I mean, she's kind of busy right now, but like, maybe long term goals.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking about that, and he kind of looks. He says, It's kind of why I came over." So I was thinking, and he just kind of takes another mouthful of cereal. "If we're gonna be here for a while, it might be a good idea to maybe do some upgrades on Awakener. I mean,
That too.
especially if we're mounting a rescue, we don't have space for that. Might be.
Yeah, we'll have to see if there's any modules available on Sulon. There's got to be. Would I know that? Would I know?
Oh,
if they're,
definitely.
like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big city.
Yeah.
It's gonna have that.
Yeah. And not only is it a big city, but it's also independent. So like they kind of have to have a little bit of everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely module stops here. We can probably find some stuff out, maybe remotely, and then.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I
Figure out
think
how to
we could use, maybe look, I don't get me wrong. I mean, Awakener's comfortable and all, but it's starting to get pretty crowded in the.
There's a lot. We have a lot.
We
of
don't have
people.
enough beds for the people that are on there right now, and I think even if we did, I kind of miss having my own room. Maybe we can get rid of that old kind of barracksy looking, the bunk module, and get some like individual.
Get some rooms.
Yeah.
We're in for the long haul at this point. I think we've earned some rooms.
Yeah. I've actually been looking, and he sets down the bowl and pulls up what is very clearly like a catalog on his terminal.
He's ready. He's got
Organization episode.
Yeah, he pulls up a catalog on his terminal and like projects it up, and so it's kind of in the middle of the three of you. And Alma, cross-legged with her elbows on her knees, just like leans forward and like starts looking through it. As he starts swiping through, he says, "I've actually seen a few really good ones. Some of these are more like dreams than practical options, but they're still fun to look at. But I've got, and he starts like swiping through. Says, actually here, and he just kind of like takes the display and swipes it over to both you and Alma, who, you hear kind of a clattering, and like you look over, and Peach like has knocked off some of the art off the walls.
Literally. That was so bad. Pay no attention.
Yeah, Jade just goes, oh, okay.
My bad.
he what is happening?
Thank you for the raid.
Haku, thank you for the raid. Welcome. Yeah, so Jade just swipes over the display over to your terminals, and so you can pull them. He says, I actually divided them into two categories, two lists. There's the one list of like the stuff that we can do and that might be useful, and then there's the stuff that would just be fun.
They're always good to look at.
Yeah.
Way to pass the time.
Yeah. So, and yeah, you guys, you basically spend the next few minutes, the three of you, just sort of browsing through things, just sort of looking over each other's shoulders at the various displays, and it's like.
Have we talked about how like ships work in this universe?
I think
how
we
they're,
briefly
like,
mentioned it.
Yeah. So there's like base level ship that most people get. You can pay higher for like, it's like building a PC, I think is what we equated it to. So like you can like just buy one that's made already if you have the money for it, or like you can just get like yourself like a shell with the bare bones and then like customize it how you want. So we have Awakener is still pretty bare bones. There's not a lot in it, and things can be taken out and swapped in for new stuff. So that's kind of what we're talking about right now.
Even the modules that exist already in Awakener, most of them are like the bare bones versions of those modules, and you have quite a few open spots. I know we have it written down somewhere exactly how many, but
it's a significant number of
open slots for new rooms and areas to be added to. Yeah, upgrades and stuff like that. So, but yeah, even with all of her modification, Awakener still has basically room to grow. Yeah.
Putting it kindly.
Yeah.
She's a little bit of a skeleton.
Great.
Yeah.
She's just barely above a skeleton.
Yeah. So, yeah. So as that is all happening, Mason, anything in particular that you're doing?
First of all, I can't hear rooms without.
I know.
Rooms?
I almost said it immediately after. I was like, right, you're on show.
It was good. That got me. Particularly nothing in particular, but I would like to Mason to never mind, not yet.
Okay.
Nothing in particular, just kind of pacing around.
Okay.
Kind of looking moody.
With a cup of coffee.
Yeah. As one point, Zaya is sort of like shoveling sugar into her coffee as she looks up. She says, "Who pissed in your beer?"
I don't. Mind your own business, and I walk away.
That's what I thought. And just keeps just drinking. Just sits down, and just like makes eye contact with Peach, and just sort of.
What a great idea! I should get coffee, Zaya. I'm gonna refill.
All right. But yeah, I mean, most of that day pretty much passes uneventfully. It's a lot of just sort of sitting and waiting. At one point, Becker does return, somewhat dramatically actually, as seemingly didn't bother with the normal way into this place, and it's rather startling when you just watch a like magenta ring just appear in the middle of the room, and a several like bag laden Becker walks through. You can hear like a noisy street outside, and then immediately the sound is just cut off as the portal closes after he steps through.
Ooh.
He steps in and says, "All right, I've got a few things. Hot food." He kind of starts setting out boxes. He says,
as he's saying hot food, because like, I want to try that sometime. I really want to try that sometime. And she, I want to go. I wonder whoever's sitting like turns out I really want to go through a portal.
Oh, very good entrance.
Says, "Yeah, it could have been more dramatic, but I figured I'd wait for the street sweeper to pass by so that nobody got splashed on this side. But That's a joke.
Probably
Sulon
good.
doesn't
There's a
have
lot of
street sweepers. There's a joke. Anyway, here you go. And he like hands out some boxes and says, "I didn't know what anybody would want, so I just got a little bit of everything." And he's
Cena takes whatever is closest
Yeah.
and will enjoy it wholeheartedly.
he pops open a small box and just like starts eating like a dish of these like blue purple noodles that he just starts like kind of shoveling into his mouth. Kind of looks around the room. He says, "So, seems like a lot's been going on here since I left." And just keeps.
Yeah, real party people.
We've been having a really good time just sitting and walking in different rooms and watching Wire work and
Yeah, sorry I missed it all. He just keeps eating. All right. Is there anything in particular y'all want to accomplish prior to beginning of montaging here?
At some point I would love to talk to Wire,
Sure.
kind of in a little bit more of a private scenario.
Yeah, that's easy enough to accomplish. Like especially right now, because basically right now everybody is occupied with food and stuff like that. So, yeah, you kind of glance over, and other than sort of briefly peeking out when Becker came back, Wire hasn't come out from behind her dividers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go kind of peek in where she's working and just see if she has a second.
Mhm.
She probably doesn't, but I'm gonna come in anyway.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because as you step in behind the dividers, you see basically like various screens that seem to be engaged in several different processes, like search functions. Wire is just sort of like leaned back in her chair, just sort of with like it's essentially like what the equivalent of like a rubber band ball, basically, and just like tossing it up into the air and catching it, and just sort of.
Hey, do you have a second?
She looks over, says, "Oh no, I'm super busy. Sorry, really swamped." And she like catches the ball, sets it on her desk, and swivels it around. And she says, she gestures over to the cot. She says, "Step into my office."
Well, I would hate to interrupt such important business.
It's
I'm gonna
okay.
come in. Just
She
take
kind
a
of
seat.
she rubs her eyes with her organic hand and says, "Honestly, I could use a break from staring at these screens."
Well, I was. First of all, did you get any of this food?
No, I can smell it, but I figured
All right.
I'd.
Well, first
wait.
of all, I'm gonna step out really quick and grab something and then bring it back to her.
She takes it, kind of opens up, and haven't had any of this in a long time, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I figure it was better than nothing. So,
Thanks.
but I just kind of had some questions about the kind of mission, and also just a question maybe about some of your talents and seeing if maybe you could help me out. I know we're looking for Abriel's sister on this ship, but I'm looking for someone too, which you might or might not know. I'm not quite sure
Right.
how much you've dug into all of our
Pretty extensively.
yeah, that's what I figured.
Brother, right? Went missing.
Yeah.
Definite Silver Break connections. Yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping that maybe you could track him in any way. I haven't been able to find him. And when I say I haven't been able to find him, I mean I have not been able to find him anywhere. Like not in the waking world, not in the dream world, nowhere. He's nowhere.
Yeah. I'm not much of an expert on dream worlds and things like that, but as soon as I started digging into all of your backgrounds, that one interested me, just because it had Silver Break's markings all over it, and when I went looking, there's a trail, even beyond the one that Mason found, but it dead ends. And believe me when I say that's when I find a dead end, you know somebody's done their work covering something.
I didn't see him on the ship that we were on. I was just wondering if he could be on this ship.
It's possible, although, given the amount of time since his abduction.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's hard to lose people. But that's who these people are.
Oh, I don't think he's gone. I don't think he is.
He might not be dead. Doesn't mean he's not gone though. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to prepare you for the possibility.
If you find any information relating to his disappearance, his whereabouts, his body, and anything, just let me know. Just tell me. I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. And I'm just gonna literally turn and leave at that point.
She just sort of, after you leave, just sort of sits there for a moment and just, thanks for the food, and swivels back around and just goes back to staring at screens. All right. So, during this, anything else that one wants to accomplish prior to?
How long are we staying in like Wire's hideout until we move locations?
Probably not very.
Nights, or is it just like this night?
Probably just like 1 to 2 nights. So, yeah.
So then this isn't really, I don't need a scene from this or anything, but just because we've all been like in close quarters, but this is like in really close quarters for the first time in a long time. And I think anyone who's a light sleeper, Bina's up and down like all night.
Oh.
He doesn't I think would maybe appear as though she doesn't know how to like not be on a ship or something, but she's up and down periodically every couple of hours throughout the night and maybe takes a nap or two during the day. But like she hasn't really been sleeping in the bunks with you guys in a really long time, so you haven't been in a sleeping space with her in a while. So that's, if anyone is a light sleeper, that might be something you pick up on if it's a couple of days in one room. But yeah, I don't need a scene, but I feel like that's just, she's up and down.
Perfect. Well, Mason would notice because Mason probably spent like maybe at least a night or two just not sleeping at all, just kind of sitting and like kind of just looking over a notebook and noticing you up and down, like, and then just kind of going back and looking through a magnifying glass at something, trying to describe.
She'll probably sit with you at some point, like at once or twice, because it's like every few hours for like an hour or two, and probably once or twice she'll probably sit with you and like just like fuck around in her terminal. Like she probably paces mostly because it's like she's got excess energy, and then at one point she probably just sits with you and fucks around in her terminal for a while, just like existing in the same space, but like it's the middle of the night. We're not gonna have a conversation while everyone is asleep unless it was imperative. But yeah, I enjoy that. I think that's funny.
That's awesome.
Every once in a while Peach stirs and it's just like, if you guys need to go to sleep, just let me know. Just let me know.
Bina just like pats your shoulder as you go back to sleep. I also let the ship know what is happening.
Right.
We let Awakener know.
I also, now that we're just sitting here for several days, I want to read the Sulon news. I want to read the news from Geoterra, where I was originally. I want to read the news from I keep forgetting the name of my own planet origin. Anzelon Prime. I want to read it from there. City Council. I want to know what's going on. We haven't had time.
Yeah.
Oh man, if you announce it, Bina sits and reads over your shoulder. She's intrigued by all of that.
Oh gosh.
Like,
Sulon
goes last because Sulon is the least relevant to what I care about.
Yeah, there is so much to like catch up on in like in terms of stuff that Peach is interested in, like in terms of um like politics stuff. There's so much happening that it just quickly becomes overwhelming. To the point where you start filtering a little bit, like what is directly relevant to like your like previous like political associations and whatnot, rather than just sort of like the broad spectrum. But
Oh, if you focus on politics, Bina gets bored nigh immediately, and
No, Bina, it's actually really interesting. You see, this faction, they were really, really hard to convince to compromise. And so this is a really big deal that they signed this treaty. I mean, you don't even understand the implications of what could happen now that these two groups are working peacefully together. And Peach is just like kind of explaining the significance of all these things.
Bina feels her enthusiasm and like reluctantly sits back down because she's gonna be a supportive friend.
At some point during all of that, Zaya will look up and just say, "Hey, Bina, I think my terminal is malfunctioning. Do you mind
Oh, I
taking
got
a look at it?"
She's up in.
Yeah.
Mason's like, really? That's happening? Tell me more about that. I've been waiting for that.
Step in is the.
Zaya just immediately, as soon as you step over, just gives you a knowing look and like, and then just goes like.
She was excited about it. I wanted to listen, and she looks at your terminal. Is the terminal actually busted?
No, not at all.
Oh, Bina's visibly disappointed.
Like Zaya just bust it real quick for you.
Yeah.
I can upgrade it for you.
Just sure, go nuts. And just kind of
Okay,
like
and
hands it over.
Is there anything like super like I mean reading the news in general is like probably crazy with everything happening, but I was just wondering like in game, but I was wondering if there's anything specifically like dramatic and like corporate movements or like any kind of big changes that like maybe wouldn't seem weird but like could be weird with our knowledge.
Yeah, there is
Anything
one.
about us?
There is one. Actually, interestingly, most of the news about you has sort of gone like back page. Like there's still mentions about like the EOS colony, the destruction of the EOS colony, but it's more in like it's more the kind of stuff that's like moving forward from the EOS disaster, right? Like and like going on like that kind of stuff with like every once in a while one of them might mention you in there, but mostly it's like yeah, it seems to be like mostly out of the news at this point. There is a particularly irritating piece that Peach comes across that's a lot of just wild speculation as to like it puts as to basically what's founded your what was behind the founding of your particular terrorist cell that you seem to be that you are being accused of being part of. One in particular that is particularly bad in for Mason, as it's just basically saying like painting Mason as a radical ringleader resigned in disgrace from the regulators and was basically like radicalized at that point and pushed to action, recruiting a bunch of specialists and
Mason,
yeah.
you know you're in charge.
Oh, they always gave me too much credit.
Very impressed.
Me too.
Dina's so into like the fake gossip. Like she thinks it's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah.
She would probably be like want to know like wild accusations.
Yeah. But the thing that I think is most interesting to Peach is as you're sort of like scanning through some various political reports from the Anzalon core systems, kind of going through, you happen upon a headline that says that reads, Dr. Calreath to sign undisclosed agreement with corporate powers. And as you note that, you start reading through the article, and basically what you see is there's very little mention of any particular deal that is being made, of like the details. There's a lot of speculation in the piece. Some of it might being about like that it might be about new terraforming deals, because that is a thing that is frequently being done, negotiated within Commonwealth politics. But then the article goes on to say, like, quoting an expert saying, it's unlikely that this is to do with terraforming. In the past, whenever the Commonwealth has signed deals for terraforming, that knowledge has been made public and the plans have been celebrated. Shortly thereafter, followed by plans for colonization of the newly terraformed worlds. This is something completely different. Mostly, these are things that are this deal, whatever it is being kept a tight lid on, and basically just like similar quotes. It's the kind of article that generally just has a bunch of people saying the same things over and over again.
Yeah. Like they have one bit of information and everyone's giving their opinion on that one bit of information.
Exactly. And it's the kind of irritating article that usually ends with like, in the end we'll just have to wait and see, but for now, yeah.
Oh god. What are you up to, Doctor? Guys, we might have some really bad situation happening back in the Commonwealth. We'll table it for now, but I'll be revisiting. Some bad movements. And
Zaya leans over the couch where you're sitting and just sort of to read over your shoulder. She says, "This Dr. Calreath, a friend of yours?"
A friend might be an odd choice of words. And I'm gonna pull up my wanted poster that has my like full legal name.
Yeah, you can see as the wanted poster comes up, you can see Peach's face, and underneath you see the name Mirabelle Calreath II.
Yeah, so that's not a friend, but that's my mother.
Oh.
So yeah, that could be an issue later that we should revisit. But nothing we can really do at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably nothing, right? I mean, politicians are always getting entangled with corporate stuff, right?
Yes, but with everything going on, I just think that it's quite a coincidence. Yeah, quite a coincidence.
Becker kind of leans back in his seat and he says, "You know, I wouldn't put it past the corporations to go after your families. They can't get to you, which they haven't been able to recently. This might be them positioning themselves for leverage at some point."
That's a nice thought.
Just saying, it's what I would do.
There's really no way of knowing if it's a deal struck by the corporation's leverage or by council's leverage. And it's really, really no way of knowing, and wouldn't put it past her to make a deal. So.
Well, regardless, there's not much you're gonna find on that in there. If they really are trying to keep a lid on it, it's not gonna be in the news.
I know, but it's nice to think that it would be, right?
Yeah. Paging through, I mean, specifically looking for news about Geoterra, you can see that the situation there has basically not changed since you left.
Yeah.
Like there's still a lot of like lockdown in negotiations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Commonwealth delegates still locked down in negotiations with the remnant of the wow, my mind just went completely blank. All right, we'll come back to that. My brain just went blank. But with the other faction that is there, I know this. We were literally talking about this earlier today. It's just my brain just full on blank.
The other one.
It does
Yeah.
that.
I wish my notes were better and I could tell you.
I know.
The sun body.
Theocracy of Suns. There we go. The Theocracy of Suns. Yeah, basically just keeping. They've been basically unable to reach any sort of agreement that would lead them forward in integrating Geoterra into Commonwealth. So basically, they're just bogged down in litigation. Pretty much is where they're at right now.
Well, I guess the ambassador is doing his job a little too well.
There is.
I like to think that Peach says that aloud and with no context.
Yeah, there is no mention of either you in the article nor of Aviva, but there's no mention of either one of you in the article.
Okay, well, that's good.
But yeah, there's really not a whole lot. I mean, that's not that there's not a whole lot going on. It's just that it's quite the opposite. That there's so much happening that there's so much to catch up on, and it's.
Yeah, I spent like 2 days just like reading the newspaper, like digital newspaper, and just everyone's just watching Peach get like heated and like reacting as she's reading the news, and everyone's probably like, why is she so like why is she freaking out?
Every once in a while, you just like aggressively throw like a hollow screen like down as it like dissipates, and we're like, "Oop, you're back to my."
Yeah. By the end of your second day in Wire's clubhouse, you you finally you don't see a whole lot of Wire. She mostly sticks to herself, sticks to her own like little divided off area, but she does. One of the few times that you actually do see her, she steps into the room and says, "Okay, I've made all the arrangements necessary for your apartment, so I can have Zaya take you there, and you can. I've also managed to, well, you'll be mostly okay, scrubbed from any kind of camera feeds." Don't worry, I've set the whole thing up, so it should be all right. I ran a smart facial recognition program, so and piggybacked it on some of their servers. So basically, anywhere you go in Sulon, anytime a camera sees you, it'll just scrub you automatically. So you're pretty much free to walk around, really. So yeah, I'll have Zaya take you to your apartment, and you can start moving whatever belongings you need there for the time being.
Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And as for our mission, Becker has agreed to go out into the field and do some reconnaissance, see if he can't find the location of this ship, either where it's departing from or where it's going, either way. So we should have news about that eventually.
Good.
All right. She hands a like data screen over to Zaya, who takes it. She looks at it and says, "Oh yeah, I know the place. Nice, not far from here. Easy walk. Pretty concealed, actually. Shouldn't need to go too far into public, but to get back here. So, whenever you're ready to go, I can take you, I guess."
Get in contact with the rest of the crew and see, and I mean everyone here who wants to be on the ship, who wants to be in the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lowdown? There. How's that shake out?
The Jade and Alma both immediately are for the apartment. The professor looks up from one of his journals and says, "Actually, I was rather thinking I might stay here and see if I could assist with a project that Wire is working on in relation to the artifact. I think there's very little that I can do studying it directly, so perhaps it might be good to perhaps leave it where it is for the time being, and once we're finished the construction of the new housing unit for it, perhaps then we can move it. But for now, I think it's it and I are best left where they are. So.
Sounds good. Who does that leave? Patch, Abriel,
Yeah, Abriel and
Everyone?
Patch have basically opted to stay on the ship. And
I mean, shuffling can happen. We're here for a month, but like,
yeah, exactly.
For
like,
now,
for
starting
now,
yeah.
I
Beta
am
once again
ready for a
iterates that
stroll.
we will.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll say Beta once again iterates that we will go for a walk with Patch should they desire to. We will not let them
Oh yeah.
be alone if they don't want to be
Mhm.
alone with other organics. Offers it again, but that's clearly they're good where they're at right now.
all right.
What were you saying, Olivia?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I am more than ready for a stroll.
Me too.
Zaya
We
says,
haven't really had good luck with strolls, so we'll see how this goes.
You know, you can only go up from here.
I will take that optimism. Let's go.
All right. Zaya says, turns to Wire and says, "Well, I will be back." And Wire just shrugs and goes back to behind her dividers. She says, "Right. Everybody ready?
Yes.
All right, let's go." And she, yeah.
I think she meant really that she missed you, that she would miss you, Saya.
She, I don't think she knows what she means.
No, that's what Bina told me.
It's not involved in this conversation.
Zaya just like looks over at Bina. Like,
It was probably like talking to Jade or something.
yeah. All right. And you, the whole group of you, minus the professor, make your way out of the cramped quarters of Wire's hacker den, making your way back up street side. Once you make your way into the alley just outside, Becker just says, "Well, it's been good getting to know all of you. Hopefully see you soon, before too long. Figure I'm just going to take this opportunity to go as soon as I can. The sooner I get out there, the sooner I find info."
We'll see you again soon. I want to ride through a portal at some point. I'm going to hold you to that. So we'll see you again.
He says, "How about a head start?" And you watch as he just sort of creates just a portal right there in the alleyway, and another one appears like way down at the end.
She kind of looks at him and then looks at everybody else. She's gonna jump through.
Yeah, it disappointingly doesn't feel any different than walking from
she
one place
doesn't
to
care.
another. But
Cool
like
as
all
hell.
of a sudden, you're just down the alleyway.
Oh, that's
She turns and forearm waves at everybody from far, and then like peeks at the portal and waves there too.
Okay, I'm coming through. I'm gonna walk through too.
Jade
Mason-
immediately just walks through as well.
Mason just like looks and then just like sticks his hand with the hat through to see his arm and hat appear ahead, and then walks through.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Cool.
All right. Alma is just gonna stay there. She says, "I think I'll walk, actually." And the two Alma and Zaya start walking down the alleyway towards you. Becker just behind, and as you reach that point, Becker says, "All right, well, take care of yourselves. Be careful. I'll see you next time." He looks at Zaya
next
and
time.
he says, "You too." She shrugs, says, "You know me." He says, "Yeah, I do."
Hey, she's got friends now. We'll keep an eye on her.
He nods, and I'm actually more worried about you, to be honest. And then he he
That's
turns
fair.
and looks at her, and she just says, "Oh, shut the hell up!" And she goes and just gives him a big hug. He steps back, says, "All right." And he just creates another portal and just steps through it, and you're not entirely sure where he went, and then just sort of.
God, that's cool.
Man, I was so wrong about his ability.
You really were. You too. And she looks at both of you. And there's, yeah, I can't believe you tried to make me choose which is closer. And she's going to start walking. Neither of them are close. Neither of them were remotely close. In my head.
I
Yeah.
hear that I seem to have missed something.
You eventually get to the apartment, which itself it is a second story apartment, in just sort of amongst an apartment complex. Not it's not the nicest place, but it's not shabby at all. It's the building itself seems to just sort of be a bunch of working class folks, just sort of most of whom when you arrive aren't even present. You just sort of see one or two of them who are like downstairs, like checking mail basically, and who kind of glance over at you and then don't really pay any attention to you whatsoever after that. Heading up, Zaya is sort of looking at the data screen and looking at buildings or at numbers, and then just saying, "Here we go. This one's you." And she taps the screen to the pad outside of the door, which clicks, flashes green, and you can hear a click as the door just slides open. And inside, the apartment is much larger than the building itself would lead you to believe that they have apartments for. It is a big open common space that you can see, with like a kitchen area not too like attached to it, and then you can see various other rooms and like a hallway that goes off into like other rooms as well. It is a very large apartment, much larger than what you were expecting, but it looks pretty spacious. It to the point where it doesn't even look like there will have to be like maybe a couple of you will have to double up, but otherwise there's plenty of room for anybody here, including fully furnished and everything. It's already got everything taken care of seemingly. Zaya looks around. She goes, "Oh shit, it's better than what she got me when I was going undercover for a while." She's not bad. She says, "I'm definitely coming by for drinks all the time."
You. You're always welcome.
You have plenty of room.
Yeah, I can see that. She says, well, welcome to your temporary home, I guess.
Thanks.
I'll let you all get settled. I gotta go run a few errands, but I'll be back. I'll be back a little later. So
We'll be
Try to
here,
make-
probably.
Try not to bring back any enemies. Only friends.
no promises. And she just... all right.
I feel like there's a claiming bed sequence that happens.
Obina just wants to see everything. Like this is
Yeah.
her. Like if this is this huge, like her apartment is probably the size of like one of these bedrooms. Like her
Yeah.
back on 23. Like she's wow. It's like
Same.
this is living space. This is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Mason is like, wow, that's a lot of space.
Inspecting
just
every
nodding,
room.
you
It's
know.
fun.
Yeah, I think Mason does a sweep.
Yeah.
Everyone does a sweep to varying levels of enthusiasm and excitement about the space that we're in.
Yeah.
Mason's more of a safety sweep type.
Penis wants to see everything.
Yeah. So,
Do we have a good view? How high up are we?
your second story right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
good.
your view is not
The
spectacular.
street.
Yeah, it is street view.
Do we have a balcony?
There is not a balcony, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mason feels right at home.
There is, however, like kind of looking over the street view, not spectacular, but there is sort of a slight bay window where there's sort of like a bench
Okay.
for on the sill.
Look up, we can see like the top side
Yeah.
of the city. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you can look up. It's very this bizarre like Inception City kind of look to it, because Sulon is built all on the inside of this hollowed out asteroid, which means that it is fully around like it is a fully three-dimensional city that you can see the towering buildings on the far side, reaching out like fingers outstretched towards the towering buildings on the side that you're on, and it's a
Cool as hell.
for street view, it's pretty spectacular.
Wow.
Vina's been here a couple of times, but like it's cool every time.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't spend this much time here.
Yeah. From here, actually, looking up, you can kind of see the walkways that extend kind of out towards the middle from some of the larger buildings, where there's, again, sort of like several spherical constructs kind of in the middle of right in the middle of the hollow space of the asteroid. And even from this distance, you can see people kind of like walking through those skywalks and looking out the large windows of the spherical constructs in the center. You can see all like the various lanes filled with traffic at this time of day up ahead in kind of like a grid-like pattern. It's one of those views that viewed from close up probably isn't that interesting and might even be a little bit distasteful, but from this distance it just looks like twinkling lights, and it's pretty spectacular.
Is this a place in which, or maybe this is universally, but like, is it where like the streets are more for pedestrian and then most traffic is aerial, or is that?
It depends on the streets. There are some grounded vehicles, quite a few actually, but not nearly as many as there are. It seems like most people's personal transportation takes place, up high. Yeah.
Dig it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mostly what you see on like ground level is like maintenance vehicles or services primarily.
So is this like a the Netherlands Amsterdam thing where like people and bikes have right of way over any grounded vehicles?
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty much what it is. You can get pretty much anywhere walking. So like even the people who have personal vehicles, there's really not a lot of need for it unless you work like completely on the other side of the city from where you live, which happens. So yeah.
Jade, you can pick the first room.
Sorry, say that again.
I said, Jade, you can pick the first room.
Says, oh, am I gonna have a roommate, or
Do you want one?
Do you want your own room, Jade?
He thinks for a moment. He says, a few months ago I would have said yes, but I don't know.
We can test it out. We'll be here for a while. I mean, we can shuffle if we need to.
Yeah. He says, okay, well, I want that one. And he unsurprisingly points to the room closest to the kitchen.
Fair.
Same
Yeah.
as Freeman. That's
Yeah. All right, so we can kind of begin our montaging here if we want. So are there any specific things that y'all want to accomplish during this? You got basically a month of time while information is being gathered and plans are being drawn up. So
Do you want to do like a round robin where we just each pick a thing and then get back around to the top of the order? Because I'm sure all of us will have a couple of things.
actually, I'll tell you what. Since we're relatively close to when we would be taking a break anyway, let's go ahead and take our break early.
I'm into
And then when we come back, we'll just jump into that. Sounds good?
I like it. I was just thinking that too.
Okay.
Perfect idea.
Awesome. Well then, we will be right back. You stretch your legs, get some water, take some deep breaths,
And in front of the air conditioner.
stand in front of the conditioner.
That's what I will be doing.
Yeah. All right. We will see you in just a few minutes. We're gonna try to be about 10 minutes or so. So yeah, see you in a bit.
See you after the break.
Hi, we're back from break. Hello, Amethyst Cat Lady. You thought you'd sneak in and out of here without being noticed, but I saw you. Caught you. Just coming back from break. Welcome back, everybody. When we left off, we were just about to montage through about a month of downtime for the crew of Awakener. So, pretty much the way that we're going to do this is very, very free-form, free-for-all kind of situation where y'all are going to tell me things that you want to do, and we can decide if we're going to make a scene of it or not as we go. and then I may interject some of my own things as well from time to time. So, who would like to begin? Caitlin, are you muted?
Hello.
Hi. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Were you saying something?
I was asking if anyone had anything immediate off the top of their heads. Otherwise, I had one I could throw out real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I know Wire asked Bina for help with something last session, and I forgot what it was.
It was
She wanted her to
for
build something.
yeah,
with her.
to build the containment for the
She, oh
for
yeah,
the
that's right. She
artifact.
had schematics.
Mm-hmm.
Bina's real wary of that thing, and I think we're in a big city with a lot of people. I feel like that would be top priority. I think she'd want to spend some time doing that first.
Yeah. That makes sense. So, like, one of the things that as you begin spending your days kind of in and out of the apartment, you realize that Wire's choice for apartment was actually very, very good. You can easily get back and forth between your apartment and Wire's lair. I'm going to use a different term for it every single time I talk
Good,
about it this
please do.
session.
Sweet.
Yeah, between your apartment and Wire's lair, pretty easily without ever having to pass another person, generally, because the most direct route is mostly through back alleys that nobody goes into. Occasionally, you might run into somebody who's like, you know, the standard like putting trash out kind of thing, but yeah, mostly, every once in a while, maybe a maintenance worker here and there, but generally speaking, it is. The only other beings that you see on your way to and from are the occasional caretaker, who the cybernetic insectoid alien species, who generally not seen outside of not seen anywhere, but because they are generally mostly on the on board conduits, and don't allow anybody to land on them. So Sulon, one of the many ways that Sulon is a bit of an anomaly.
Bina waves at them every time she sees one.
Yeah, mostly their mantis-like heads just sort of turn and following you as you walk by, just sort of large, curious eyes that just sort of follow you and then go immediately back to whatever it is that they're doing. Usually
are bug
maintenance
people.
tasks and the like.
Yeah.
So yeah, you make your way back and forth a few times pretty easily, coordinating with Wire, setting up the looking over the schematics, setting up the preliminary structure of the thing, and setting to work. So I am actually going to have you roll on this one.
Excellent.
So this is primarily going to be since you have the time. This is primarily going to be an intellect task.
Cool.
And the difficulty of this is not very high, but the difficulty is going to be 3.
Cool. Let me check my stuff. Mechanic.
Yes, that is going to help.
That's 2.
All right.
Wait, how many did you say it was?
Difficulty 3.
Oh, okay. Would I have an asset from any tools or any of her computers?
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And also, if I have an asset in a tool, it takes half the time.
Yeah. So
then we do it.
yeah, you do it. You're welcome to roll anyway and see if you get anything
Let's
special.
do it. Yeah. Cool. Let's have a roll this game, shall we?
All right. Let's see what we got.
Let's see. Okay. I called it, man. I knew it.
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
This is important. I don't want it. I don't want a complication with this thing in particular.
All right.
So is it a 2 spend or a 1 spend?
For XP, it's just a 1 spend.
1 spend.
Yeah.
Okay, I spend it because this seems like we don't want a complication with in this thing in particular.
Yeah, maybe.
I took the dice out and I was like, I rolled a nice nat 20 last time. This is going to be a 1. It was. Anyways, I do it.
Okay, cool. All right. So, nothing special from the roll. Nothing exciting. Nothing special or exciting from the roll.
Natural one, and then I said no to complication.
No, that's not how that works. You can't
Oh.
you can't get rid of them by XP spend. You can re-roll, but you can't get rid of it.
Oh, you re-roll. That's what it is. God, I
Yeah.
was like, I forgot what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
re-roll. 9.
Okay, cool. Sorry. All right. So it's not.
I missed it. I had it wrong in my head.
Yeah. So it's nothing exciting, but you succeed. So yeah, you kind of going through, and it really doesn't take you that long. Like, in fact, Wire at one point seems surprised, where she's
I
just
think
sort of,
half speed.
Yeah.
Or half as long.
yeah, she's looking back and looking at it. It's like, wow, I really thought this was going to take longer.
Forearms helps.
I guess it does. I'll before we bring the artifact here, I think I'm gonna run a few diagnostics on it, make absolutely certain. Might want to still rig up that containment that containment field that you built on Awakener. Might be a good idea to put that up anyway, just as, I mean, where one is good, two is better. So.
True. Yeah, we can go get that today probably.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that actually is good. That frees me up. I now have time that I didn't think I was going to have, so thanks.
Yeah. Could I perhaps take a little bit of your leftover time for just a second?
Sure. What do you need?
Have you been keeping an eye, like, on our families and stuff?
I was wondering
I'm afraid to look them up. I feel like something bad will happen if I look them up.
I mean, good instincts, but yeah, I was wondering when you were going to ask about that. I've made sure to keep an eye on them, and while with some of them I have noticed corporate presence that is keeping an eye on them, they look like they're mostly observing at this point, making sure that none of you go back for a visit. I've been scouring all their channels. There's no apprehend orders, nothing whatsoever. Mostly just observe and report. But good instincts on not contacting them because they've got all their communications tapped. So.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have contacted them. I've been trying not to think about it, if I'm being honest. And then yesterday, Becker said something about it, and then that made me nervous about it again, but like more pressing. So I figured I would ask if they're okay.
Yeah.
Because you would be better at looking than me.
Oh, believe me, I've made sure to. There's not a whole lot that I can do, but I've done what I can.
But they're good. They're okay. They're
As far as the corpse are concerned, yeah.
okay. Okay.
It might be a good idea, though, to consider long-term plans just in case, because if Silverbreak has your people or has your families and stuff under observation right now, it's not going to be long before that changes, especially if you keep pissing them off.
Don't intend to stop doing that anytime soon, I guess.
Might be worth, well, it is worth coming up with some long-term solutions.
Like family evac? Is that what you're talking about?
Relocation, false identities, the whole package.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're not gonna like that. Oh, they're... I like going places. My parents don't really... They're not really about that. Might take some convincing.
Yeah, well, there may come
With
a
good
point.
arguments, at least.
There may come a point where it's the only option. It's better to be prepared for it now than it is to have it sneak up on us and not be ready.
That makes sense.
All right, I have some more work to get back to.
Have good luck. Okay, goodbye. And she's gonna grab what she needs to get going, and
Yeah.
we'll go start moving stuff stuff from Awakener down
Sure.
to
Um.
the hidey hole.
So yeah. So basically, the moving stuff doesn't take too much. Although there's some stuff that it'll take a couple of trips just because moving it is pretty
Might need help.
conspicuous and yeah, like
That's true.
It-
Oh, that actually might be
Hmm?
kind of a good if she's wanting to not get kind of doing like three things at once here. That's
Mhm.
fine. She obviously doesn't want to get caught. She has to make a lot of trips. I think she's going to probably for the first time unintentionally use one of her new abilities then, which is
so
blend in.
so basically the way I'm seeing this happening is at one point as Bina is going back and forth, there's like one of the guards near the kind of that patrols the some of the security that patrols the industrial complex where you have
Uh-huh.
your ship sort of illegally parked, who like notices you a couple of times, and the first couple of times doesn't take any particular interest in you, but like keeps seeing you, and after like a moment you would feel that ping of interest as he's just sort of, and like there's a couple of times passing back and forth of that, and then at one point you see him long before he sees you at one point. um and so yeah, as you begin approaching, he looks up, sort of stiffens from his sort of relaxed state, and then you just kind of uh, instinctively you just sort of like, don't notice me, don't notice me, don't notice me, don't look at me, and all of a sudden as you're seeing him look directly at you, you watch as he just sort of his eyes almost like glaze over as he like starts looking past you, and then his eyes sort of wander and he just sort of starts looking in the opposite direction and just sort of looking down the street, relaxing once again back into his seat, um, head sort of on a swivel. He passes completely over, like his eyes pass completely over you, looking around, um, as yeah.
She walks a little bit faster.
Yeah. Yeah, you walk fast and you can see that his attention kind of turns in the direction that you are, but like trails well behind you. His gaze trails behind you as he's just sort of keeping a watchful eye but a very relaxed expression. Um,
So yeah, she'll probably try to do that on purpose then the next
Yeah.
couple of trips she makes, which exhausts her a little bit because I don't have enough edge to eat all of it, so she'll
Right.
have to spend every time she does it. But yeah,
Fair
no,
enough.
I think that'll be her. The way, so for those who know Cypher things, this is blend in. Creatures can see you, but they attach no importance to your presence for about a minute. I have specialized in stealth and speed defense, and it ends if you reveal your position by attacking, using an ability, moving a large object, like etc. So like if I do something that will like break out of the being, don't look at me, don't look at me. Yeah, I think for her it manifests in how she can outwardly project her emotions. I think she kind of has like this aura now that she can use that just kind of like makes attention slide off of her. So very excited about that.
Cool. All right. So, I'm gonna go ahead and interject one of my moments in here. So, as you all are sort of moving stuff back and forth from Awakener, at certain points, like it becomes pretty, like the traipsing across town, uh, becomes quite a bit. Like I said, you're being sort of being forced to move stuff in like small chunks so as not to be conspicuous. Um, so it requires several trips and several shifts. Um, but at one point, Peach, you find yourself just like making it's your shift at this point to move some stuff as you make your way back to Awakener, and you've already made a couple of trips on this particular day, and you just feel yourself just sort of like it's just exhausted, and you just sort of like plop down on one of the couches. Um,
Yeah.
Not really a whole bunch of people around. You can hear kind of the clanking footsteps of Patch moving around somewhere in the background, but you haven't seen them since your first trip here. Um, and as happens frequently when performing these sorts of tasks, you feel yourself just sort of being like sucked into the seat as like just your fatigue from the day starts to overtake you. And
Mhm.
before long, you find yourself just drifting off there on the seat. The rest that was intended to take just a couple of minutes ends up taking little bit more than that.
Yeah, nice
Um,
little nap.
just a nice little nap. Yeah. As as you do, you come to consciousness in a room that is not the one that you fell asleep in. Um, it takes you a moment to place it. Even if you feel the familiarity, but it takes you a moment to place the room. It's somewhat sterile in its appearance. There's not much in it, but as you glance around, you look towards the center of the room, and you can sort of see a you see a spherical object just sort of floating in the middle of the room. Um, and immediately you just snap back to, you know exactly where you are. You are in the very briefly glimpsed um, uh, chamber where they on Eos where they kept the artifact. Um, Looking around the room, you don't see anyone other than your own reflection in some of the mirrored glass that surrounds the upper portion of the walls. Um, Looking around the room, you don't see any signs of movement other than your own reflection. And as you look hoping to see maybe any signs of motion behind the glass, you start to hear whispering. At first, it's just sort of an annoyance in the back of your mind, but then it starts getting louder. And as it gets louder, you start realizing that it's not just one voice whispering, but several, many voices, perhaps hundreds of them, just sort of whispering, indistinct. You can't catch any words. Every moment as you listen, you strain against the silence, trying to hear, and at every moment you feel yourself just on the verge of being able to understand, but not quite. As you turn, you look directly at the artifact in this hovering in the center of the room, and the whispers get louder, not clearer but louder. As you look, it's like it's it's like scratching on the inside of your mind. The whispers are so loud and incessant, uh, so much so that you wake on Awakener, looking around, still hearing the clanking footsteps of Patch somewhere in the background, but also still hearing the whispers, much more indistinct now, but directional this time. Whereas before
Of course.
they seemed to be sort of all around you and nowhere all at once. But now, as you turn your head, there is a distinct direction from the whispers. And as you turn, you look in the direction that you think they might be coming from, and you look up towards the where you can just sort of barely see the top from where you from your current position, the top of the corridor that leads to towards the bridge.
As I get closer to it, do I hear the whispers more clearly? Can I make out what they're saying?
No, they just get louder.
Is there anybody else close by? Pat, you said Patch is walking
Yeah,
around.
as you make your way up to sort of the that next level up, you can see that Patch is currently in is actually in the corridor to the bridge with one of the bulkheads removed from like one of the panels of the bulkhead removed in the corridor, as they seem to be like they have a terminal plugged into the wall and they're doing basically like a routine diagnostic. They turn and look at you and say, "I did not wish to disturb you. You seemed to be asleep."
Yeah, how long did I fall asleep for?
"I am unsure, but you have not been aboard longer than 20 minutes."
Okay. I am going to go study the artifact for a few moments. But if I am in there longer than half an hour, can you come get me?
"Of course."
Okay. Thank you.
They turn back to the diagnostic and continue just sort of running it, paying you no more mind as you walk past them. As you continue making your way down the corridor, you can hear the whispers getting louder again. Not quite to that sort of deafening white noise kind of roar that you were hearing in your dream, but as you step closer to the secret room, you stand immediately outside of the secret room, and as you turn and look at it, you press your hand across the panel, the hidden panel, and you can see it glows very slightly with your hand, the imprint of your hand, and then you can hear the mechanisms ticking as the hidden panel pushes away and slides to the side. And as soon as it opens, the whispers just dead stop.
Huh. Quiet now that I've come to talk.
You, staring across the room, this small, hidden room, at the contained artifact that is just sitting there looking the same as it ever did, but feeling like you do when you're that sensation when you're alone in a room, but like in the back of your mind it feels like there's somebody else, like you can almost like feel the presence of someone else there, or like when you're very focused and somebody who's in the room leaves, like it's almost like your mind still assumes that they're there. That's kind of the sensation that you're having right now, only you're conscious of it, you're aware of it. You kind of look at the artifact and you can see this sort of the scintillating light from within just sort of moving, much like akin to sort of like the reflection of light on still water.
You've spoken to me before. Why not now?
There's only silence is your answer.
So I want to see if I can. What can I do here? Can I do anything? I'm just gonna kind of take a stare for a second, and I want to try and kind of focus on how I felt in the dream that I was just in a moment ago. I just kind of want to feel kind of that same, like the whispers. I want to kind of focus on the memory of that dream and try and see if I can make any kind of connection with the artifact.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So, you take a moment, and as you just focus intently on this spherical object before you, um, you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to decide how I'm gonna play this one. You start to feel yourself almost getting that sort of tunnel vision, like the room itself begins fading away. You don't lose your balance, you don't feel yourself falling or anything like that. It's almost like the room itself is just getting darker and the sphere is getting brighter. You continue just to stare at this thing, focusing on those feelings, and after a moment you begin to hear once again those whispers. Once again non-directional, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Focusing on those, you start to experience like a lifting sensation, as if are lifting off the ground, as if the gravity in the room just stopped and you feel yourself almost floating away. You see the world around you just fully turn dark. The only thing clear to you is the artifact. Your whole surrounding, everything around you, is just black, except for the artifact itself. You look down at your hands and you can see them as if you are in a perfectly well-lit room, but everything around you is just empty. As you look around, you look back at the artifact and it's not there anymore. As you turn, you hear no. You feel that someone else is there. At first, you expect that oppressive, heavy presence that you've felt before, and the moment you think that, you can feel echoes of it. But that's not what you feel. That's not what's near. And as you turn on the spot, revolving slowly, you see a single figure standing, for a moment difficult to make out against the darkness beyond them. Dressed in full black, tactical gear, helmeted head. You see that same figure. You don't know how you know, but you know it's the same person that you saw on Zolaterra, or on the colony off of Zolaterra. The helmeted head turns towards you, and even though you can't see their eyes, you can feel that the two of you are looking directly at each other. You just hear that same muffled voice suddenly. What is this? Where are we? What have you done?
The voice is familiar to me.
It's hard to tell. Again, it's heavily muffled and filtered through the helmet.
I don't know if I brought us here. But here we are, still the same. Are you lost?
I'm not lost.
Are you sure? You seem lost.
I've been looking for you.
I'm not hiding.
We'll see.
I'm here. Ready to be found.
You did this to me. Back on that mining colony. You did something.
I didn't do anything to you. I don't know who you are. I mean, I like to hope that you're like me.
You know they'll find you. We'll find you. It's only a matter of time.
Okay. Well, I'll try to get everything ready for you then when you get here. And you might not know it yet, but I think we're gonna be together sometime soon. I can just see it in your eyes. Can I try, since this, I don't know if this is a dream or not. I don't know where we are technically, but is there any way that I can make his mask go away, like, for a second? Like, can I see his face? As I'm talking to him, trying to kind of get his guard down and just for a split second.
I think I'm gonna make this a roll.
Yeah, okay.
The difficulty on this roll is gonna be 8.
Okay. So pleasant social interactions.
It's not gonna affect this. Because what you're trying to do has nothing to do with social interaction.
I know. Does my awakened dreams help with this then?
I think so. You are trained in all tasks relating to dreams and sleep and something like that, right? From
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I have a power shift in awakened dreams. It usually goes specifically to like illusions and like making things solid, but I think it could count towards like specific. It's just the power shift in awakened dreams. So
Is that? I feel like that's supposed to be for a specific ability.
okay, it doesn't have to. It could just
Okay.
So So it's a 7 if I. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can spend. It's an intellect one, right?
Yeah, this is an intellect task.
Okay, I'm gonna spend 3 levels of effort.
Okay.
Which is all I have.
Yeah. So the difficulty is 4, so 12 or better is what you got right now.
Okay. I think that's all I can do. So it's better than I thought it's gonna be able to do. So 12 or better. I just rolled a 19.
Ooh. Okay. All right. So, in this moment, I am going to offer you a GM intrusion.
I mean, my instinct is always to take GM intrusions, but I really want to see his face. So I don't know. I'm gonna say no. I want to see his face.
Okay, so go ahead. You'll have to spend an XP to say no. That's basically that's how GM intrusions work. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I have 1 XP, so.
Okay. In that case, then you see for a moment, a split second, there's a drop in this individual's guard, one that it's barely there, and for a split second, before the whole thing just the whole visage of this person is immediately just sort of rushed away. For a split second, you see a pair of eyes that are haunted and tortured. The barest hint of a kind of the bold line of a nose, before you feel this person just sort of shove away, like you feel it almost physically before they are just whipped away. But in that moment, seeing those eyes, they're eyes that they're familiar to you. They're very familiar to you. Because you see them almost every day. As you look into your own reflection for a moment, without any mirrors, you are looking once again. While the face that you saw was largely obscured, it was pretty unmistakably your own. You stand there for a moment, still just alone. And before too long, you start to feel another presence. As you look around, you can see the outline of a person just outside of your field of view walking. And then another presence in the other direction. As you look, you see another one. And as you look around, you can see that what you first took to be just empty blackness around you is actually full and moving. As once again the whispers return, as you see outlines, shadowy outlines of people just outside of your field of view, just moving, milling back and forth, the shadows almost seeming to come alive with them. And there's just this slight moment where you are almost able to reach as one of them stops and turns towards you. You can feel their attention on you. You're not sure how, but you feel their confusion. You can see sort of a shadowy hand start to come up, reaching towards you, tentatively reaching out. And as you can feel your own arm, almost seemingly of its own accord, reaching up to reach back. And suddenly it all stops as you feel a grip on your shoulder, as you turn suddenly, and once again in the secret room on Awakener, as you look up into Patch's kind of central iris, as they're looking down at you, and they say, "Is everything all right?"
Thank you. I don't think that everything is all right, but I'm okay.
I see. I do not understand. However, you have been here for exactly 31 minutes.
Oh. Thank you for coming to get me. I don't know where that would have taken me. Peach is just kind of staring back at the artifact, and I'm sure Patch is very like, what's this weird organic doing in here?
You stare for a moment, and for a moment you almost start to feel like that tunnel vision sensation coming back, but before it happens, you hear Patch's voice once again. She says, Jade messaged saying that he would be ready to take over the moving shifts.
Oh. Yeah, I guess I better get back to the apartment. Thank you. I'm just gonna take everything back. I'm gonna take everything back. And Peach is just gonna kind of, very kind of weirdly go back and get the rest of the stuff that we need and bring it back. But she definitely is taking like 3 times as long to do anything, because her mind is very much still in that place and that room.
All right. So, you make your way back after all this, handing off your shift to Jade. So, anybody else have stuff that they want to do during downtime?
All right. All right. Mason grabs a bottle and heads to I guess whatever room was left over, because he didn't go and grab one right away. He probably like looked around. He probably went outside to look around and probably had a few smokes, kind of just looking at the passersby,
Mhm.
looking at the views. But right now he grabs a bottle and he heads to the room where he's been um, sleeping, or sleeping, as the case may be, and would like to see what message he received.
Okay. So you sit for a moment and pull up the screen on your terminal, and you see the holo display come up. The frozen image of a woman, a human woman, probably in her early 30s. Um, mm, with sort of mm, light brown, light brown hair that is currently tied back, and you can see just sort of in a loose bun. Um, Basically dressed in what appear to be like maintenance, basically maintenance workers jumpsuit that has been unzipped down and has been kind of peeled away and is just sort of hanging loosely over her shoulders. Um, as she leans in close to the screen, the image is frozen. Kind of the is sort of paused prior to the message being played, just with her looking down. As you play the message. Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, just a little bit of just that Mason kind of like unconsciously like he's definitely relaxed at this point. He's not wearing his coat. It's probably too warm in there. He's like in like a tank top, but he's still wearing his fedora, and he's just kind of he's got like his the equivalent of what the regulators would have considered like
Mm-hmm.
dog tags
I imagine
type
they're
of
like
deal.
sort of vaguely like holographic almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in between the two little emblem holograph dog tags, there's a silver band
Mm-hmm.
that he just kind of starts
Mm-hmm.
like just touching,
Yeah.
like a soft stone.
Mm-hmm. All right. So playing the message, you see as she sort of settles herself in and just sort of looks up at where the recording at the recording receiver. She looks up. She says, "I don't know if this is gonna find you. I I don't really even know why they're saying a lot of things about you. It's hard to believe a lot of it. I'm not sure I do, but you know, there was a time that I thought that maybe I was. I mean, I never thought I knew you, but there were times when I thought that maybe I was getting close. Mm. I. She kind of glances over her shoulder as you see. She looks over. She says, "No, it's okay. I'm coming in a second. Yeah, I'll be right there." She turns back. She says, um, "Liara's walking now. She's she's quite the adventurer, and Cade is Cade's doing well. He told me yesterday that he wants to be an artist when he grows up, and He's not there yet, but he'll get there, maybe. I don't even know if this is going to get to you, so I'm not really sure why, maybe you did what they're saying that you did, and maybe you didn't. If you did, I'd like to think that maybe you had a good reason for it. You usually had a good reason for the things you were doing. Sometimes I wonder if maybe that's why things didn't. I try not to go there. It's ancient history. Thing is, maybe I didn't know you as well as I hoped that I did. But I don't know. I don't really have a point to this. There really isn't a point here. I just felt like I needed to say something, like I needed to talk with you, and but then I remembered that this is kind of what it was like even before I tried to talk, and it's like you weren't there. Anyway, they're doing well. Kate asks about you sometimes. I don't really know what to tell him, especially not about any of this. So I just tell him that his dad was a hard worker, was somebody who always did what he thought was right, even if it cost everyone around him everything. And him. I don't know what you're doing or what any of this is about, but I hope that's still true. She leans forward and just the recording ends.
Oh, fuck.
You sit there for a few moments longer, then you hear a knock at the door, and the door opens and you see Jade pokes his head and he says, "Hey, oh, sorry, were you busy?"
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be out in a minute.
I was just telling you that there's food, so there's.
Thank you. Yeah. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, okay. And you see as he sort of hesitates in the doorway, and then just uh, it's out there on the table. We'll be waiting. And then he steps out, and the door just closes behind him.
I could just kind of close close it down, and I think Mason will just excuse me, kind of sit there. And he said he's going to go out and eat food, but he has no intention of eating. He's not hungry. He's just going to fill up the glass a little bit, 2 fingers, and just kind of sip, kind of like sitting in the same spot.
Yeah. Right. And that is where you find yourself spending the rest of the night. The next time you leave the room late at night after all motion has stopped, all sounds of movement outside of in the apartment have stopped. Stepping out into the apartment, you can see that just next to the door, there is a plate of food covered that's just been set on the floor.
God, sweet kid. I pick it up and kind of munch on the purple noodles with chopsticks.
All right.
And kind of just go back inside.
All right. So, anything else anybody wants to do during?
I did have some things for downtime that were planned.
Uh-huh.
Not just
Oh, we gotta follow that up.
not just scary dream sequences, scary traumatizing dream sequences. One thing I wanted to do while maybe like at night or during the day when it's kind of quiet and people are out of the apartment, I wanted to focus specifically on my mother's office and try to use my new ability, remote viewing. And with the kind of knowledge that she's made recent corporate dealings, I want to see, knowing that she'd most likely be in her office at any given time if she's not in a meeting. Then I want to kind of focus on her and where she would be in that space.
Sure. You focus in on that, and you can kind of feel the world around you almost just seem to dissolve away. As it does, it's almost like peeling away. It's like peeling away wallpaper to reveal a totally different room. As you stand in an office in which you have stood many times, and you see your mother, an Anzalonian woman, seated at her desk, dressed very regally by Anzalonian standards, probably ostentatiously by other standards, with basically a gown that is sort of like half sleeve gown that sort of leaves the shoulders exposed, with a high arch shaped collar that at the top splits into three almost ribbon like protrusions that curve over at the top, and each of which is sort of waving steadily in its own kind of caught in its own sort of micro-gravitational field, as she's just sort of seated at her desk, this sort of moon-shaped desk, crescent moon-shaped desk, as seems to be finishing up a conversation over a call. She says, I've already told them that I've rescheduled for Thursday. If that's not going to be enough for them, then they're going to have to go through my office to reschedule another time. Okay. Thank you. And she clicks off the communicator, and then just sort of settles back in. One of the moments that few people outside of her own family, and rarely even then, ever get to see, is her having this very unguarded moment where she just sort of seems to sink into her chair as she closes her eyes and takes a deep breath and just shakes her head, and she looks around the room, kind of for a moment, sort of a heart-stopping moment. Almost seems like she's making eye contact with you, Peach, but then she just looks away and stands up and strides across the room to where the large double doors open out onto the balcony that overlooks the capital city on Anzalon Prime. She walks over there. You can see as the sunlight from the world falls across her face in profile. She stands out by the verdant planters that are sort of spaced across the balcony rail, as she looks up to one of them and sort of holds some of the leaves delicately, and then looks out over the city. Um, she stands there just completely silently several several moments as she just sort of stares out over the tiered the cityscape. Um, you stand and watch her for a moment, and you're just about to leave bef- when she sighs heavily and just says, "Come back to me, both of you." And she looks out over the city, and you can hear very suddenly the beeping of the door chime as she just closes her eyes and uh, takes another moment, hesitates as she turns back to look over across the city, and then goes back inside. Um, and you just hear her voice once again, her in her kind of imperious tone, saying, "Enter," and the door. You can hear as the door slides open, and several dignitaries step inside as she settles herself back in at her desk.
I'm here. I'm gonna keep listening, but we don't have to go through it. But I'm just,
Yeah.
it can last for an hour, so I'm just gonna try and hear whatever
Yeah, it's
is happening for an hour if anything is important or relevant. But
yeah. Right now, what it looks like is happening, the experience that you're watching, which is largely uninteresting, seems to be just sort of her and her aides going over her schedule, and rearranging things as necessary. You get the impression that she just from the conversation you pick up that she's taking a like a some sort of that she's going to be leaving soon, going somewhere. Because they're talking about itinerary and like scheduling and accommodations, that whole kind of thing, basically. Very boring travel arrangement type stuff that they're talking about. You don't ever really glean from the conversation where she is going. Seemingly, their focus is much more about the like schedule of events on whatever trip she's taking, as well as her just political schedule, scheduling meetings and uh, social event appearances, things like that.
okay.
But you stay and you watch her
Yeah.
going through her day, and it for a moment feels like it did when you were very young, and you would
Yeah.
accompany her to the office.
Yeah, I kind of just look longingly out the balcony as if I wish I could just kind of go and stand out and look at the city until eventually it kind of snaps back into focus and I'm in the apartment again.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, um, let's see. Sorry, now I actually have to look at my notes today. Um, so at one point during the course of this month, actually, before we get into this, I will say, Caitlin, what are Bina's plans for any sort of upgrading of Awakener? Because you have the time if necessary. So, did you have specific things that you wanted to do there?
First of all,
Mhm.
I feel like 'cause it'll be faster, a faster overhaul. If Jade will help too, I'm assuming, to fucking get up on that shuttle. I want it
Mm.
in full working order.
Yep. Yeah.
This is gonna be. I don't think they'll do it in one go. I think they might spread out because this is like their fun hobby thing. I think we talked about this last session, but like fixing engines and like ships and stuff is like Bina's job, which she adores, but like grounded craft is like her hobby.
Right.
So like this is something that she and Jade I think would have a good time working on. So that's something we want to do. I want to make sure that I want that fucking tip top shape
Mm-hmm.
better than it was even intended to be when it was first made. Like
Yeah.
she's
Fair enough.
excited to go like absolutely ham on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Awakener, we had a request for the living quarters. We wanted better quarters, so we'll see what's available for all of these things we're
Okay.
gonna do. I don't really know. I also wanted to look into we don't really have a lot of offensive anything. Like we have our stealth mode, but that's more defensive.
Mhm.
We're pretty fast, which is also could be defensive, but like we have the weapons, but I think in the past you've said that they're not comparable to anything. They're just like
Yeah.
basic defense.
Yeah.
So I would maybe like to upgrade that since we are going to be doing some dangerous things. And last time we stood no chance of hitting that capital ship that was bearing down on us at you. So that's something I feel like might be relevant and important. I'd probably want to talk with Alma and Jade and see if they had any recommendations. Because otherwise, I think Bina might have a tendency to funnel shit into engines specifically, but she knows she's biased, so she'll ask for outside opinion. But that
Yeah.
would probably be those would probably be the three that I would off the top of my head would be what I would go for.
Sure.
But she's gonna ask for outside opinions because she knows that she's biased.
Yeah, and one of the things that that if you recall that Wire said is at least during this month-long stay that you're here, once after you finish basically like moving necessities to the apartment, after that Awakener can basically be docked at a sort of secret-ish location where Wire herself has a transport.
Yes.
So that's during these upgrades is pretty much when that is happening, where that is happening. I mean,
Yes.
and yeah, so pretty easy to get equipment and stuff that you need to do it. There are certainly facilities that you can take to have these things done for you, like these modules installed for you, but
she would begrudgingly, if it was better for everyone, she would begrudgingly let it happen. But if there's anything she can do by herself, she will absolutely do it by herself.
Yeah, the
With
installation,
her-
the
yeah.
installation of the modules is one of those things that's probably best done by like somebody
Yeah.
else, by like specialized facilities for it. But as for installation of new parts and things like that, that's easy enough for Bina to do. And the nice
The
thing is,
overhauls, man.
it's-
She's ready.
it's your resources here are, I don't want to say they're unlimited because they aren't. Because Wire,
We just have help.
yeah, one of the things that you've learned about Wire is that she does not have any of her own accounts. Basically, what she does is she runs like some of what Bina learns over the course of like this month is that some of Wire's operation is entirely just calculated programs that are running in the background. Basically just moving money around to like literally playing a shell game with money that is
Yes.
basically being skimmed from like just like infinitesimal amounts that are being skimmed from big accounts that are then basically being played. Like Wire has a complex system of programs that are constantly opening accounts, moving money to them, transferring that money to other accounts that have been opened, closing down those accounts. That's just basically this big shell game that is happening with money.
What did we
So-
say after last week's game? It's like Office
It's
Space.
like Office
but
Space, yeah,
Actually, but actually competent.
Exactly. So no, it's literally exactly that. There's just basically at any one point there is a gradually increasing amount of money that just exists constantly in transition. Like it is never in an account for at any one account longer than just like maybe at
A brief stop.
yeah, at most maybe like 3 hours at most that it's ever in any one particular account. And basically her algorithms are essentially running, and her programs basically will like create entire false identities and like backgrounds, just like not the kind that would suit an actual person wanting to use them, but just enough to like get all the details for accounts. And
Just a mannequin account real
Yeah.
quick, just so as a silhouette it passes, but like
exactly. So just enough that she can open accounts, but not so much that it would actually be useful as any kind of false identity. So this money is just constantly being passed around. So in theory, there is a nearly unlimited amount of funds that are at your disposal. In reality, it's a little bit more complicated than that, mainly because there is a limit to how much she can pull at any one point without it triggering all sorts of flags.
Yeah.
So
but we can do it slowly.
right,
If
exactly.
we can prioritize and do things in small chunks.
Yeah. So it's starting to make sense to you why Wire's operation is starting to make sense to you, how she's able to accomplish this stuff, given that she has as minimal resources as she has clearly displayed, it's largely because she's not paying for any of it. Other people are without realizing it.
Mhm.
She's it's essentially a non-consensual crowdfunding. Is basically what is happening here.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, wait, another thing that
Mhm.
might be good. Updating the medbay module.
right. Yeah.
That would probably be also on the list. As far as like medical bay, but also as in like a research facility too, probably would be useful.
Yeah.
But that's also I'll throw that in the list. Whether or not all of this can happen this
Yeah.
month, those are on the wish list.
Over the course of the month, I think you'd have enough time that you could probably afford maybe. I think about this. Probably like uh, 3 or 4, probably like 4 modules. I would say.
Okay.
That would not tax the limitations of Wire's setup. Um, you'd be able to do that. So that's enough, by the way, so that looking through some of the stuff that Jade has pulled up for personal quarters, for individual quarters, essentially what you're finding is that really the only way to do it is to remove the existing
Mhm.
module that is there, which currently, by the way, it takes up 2 of the slots on the ship.
Yes.
It is very large. And essentially replacing it with fairly comfortable modules, each module containing 2 quarters. So with that, you can do that. You can actually also, even if you wanted to, which actually might offset some of your cost a little bit, is you can actually move the existing barracks module somewhere else on the ship, and then continue to install the personal quarters. I'll have to look at it and check to see exactly which
Mhm.
spaces are open, but I think I mean, I know
And
you
we
have.
can double check this after the game
Yeah.
too if we need to. We don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but yeah. So basically, by adding personal quarters, you aren't also like depriving yourself of bunk
Quarters,
space
yeah.
that you
Mhm.
already had. So yeah. So you can do that pretty easily, and then oh gosh, you said advanced medical and research lab, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
If possible.
Right. That should be possible, but that'll probably put us to the limit as far as modules go.
Mhm.
Okay.
Were the other two things? Would they require modules to upgrade the engines and weapon systems? Is that like a module, or is
It
that something
can,
else?
but they don't have to. Those are things that you could
Okay.
probably just
Maybe we do that then.
hmm
We
What
go
you
all in
what
on.
you're able to find, what you're able to determine pretty quickly is that there's really nothing on Sulon that's going to be able to help you upgrade your engines.
Okay. Fair.
The engines themselves are pretty advanced as it is.
She knows this. She
yeah.
likes to push it.
Yeah, nothing on Sulon probably. Like
Okay.
anything to advance beyond what you've got right now, you'd probably have to go to like a very highly specialized like shipyard or something that makes specialized parts and things like that.
Can I get Jade that console?
Yeah, that's easy enough to do. That's
Okay,
not
cool.
that's
I'll do that then. We'll do that instead then.
okay. All right. As for weapon systems, it could be a module, but depending on like how intense you want to go with that, you
I
could
think she'd like get Mason one night and just be like, okay, so I have 4 options here. And she holds up 4 like holographic little cards, like, this is what I'm looking at, but I don't actually know what I'm looking at. I don't do this stuff. But I feel like we need it. And so she's gonna we'll run down with
Yeah.
Mason and try to like narrow down what would be the best option here. And we don't have to fully role play out a scene if we
Sure.
don't want to. You can just give us some descriptors and we
Yeah.
can kind of decide from there.
I mean, essentially, one of like, okay, let's put it this way. Right now, Awakener has sort of a main cannon that is pretty bare bones. It's basically for defense purposes primarily. But it is pretty good quality. Even though it is pretty bare bones, it's good quality. If you sold that, it would actually probably offset the cost just enough where you could probably pull from Wire's funds for another module, for like a dedicated like tactical module.
Whoa, okay, cool.
Mhm.
I
Sounds
love
good.
that.
Yeah. So then we'll do that. We'll say that then. So essentially, on I'm counting it as one module because it is technically it is two, but they're like the smaller variety, the smaller slot on the ship. That there's one on either side. That basically they um, they are retractable essentially, but each one
Oh, cool.
they can be controlled on location individually and can basically swivel underneath the vessel as well, and sort of in a base in like a not quite 360, but basically like a wide arc, um,
Nice.
and but they can also be controlled remotely from the bridge, from the tactical station at the bridge.
I like the sound of that.
Mhm.
If Mason's there, he would say it's good
Yes,
that we
Mason's
can.
there.
It's good that we can command some of these things from the same location.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. And Mason, looking over these, at some point, you like when Zaya is over, the two of you are looking over the specs for them, and she goes, "Damn, these things pack a punch."
That's what I was saying too.
That's a pretty good deal, actually. Huh.
You think so?
I may have to get some of those for my own ship. I'm gonna have to get a ship first, but then I'm gonna have to get some of these. Yeah. So within that time, you're able to get these things applied. It takes with the weapons modules, it's a little bit more complicated because there are certain legal parameters to maneuver around. um, but
Hmm.
Wire mostly is the one handling the transactions, and in conversations with her later, you get the impression that the fact that that she that this involved a lot of legally dicey stuff was exactly the reason that you were able to get a good deal. And that she maybe applied some pressure in a couple of places. All right. But yeah, as for the hovercraft, um, I'd say that in a month's time with some dedicated time, you could probably get it up pretty nicely spruced up. In fact, at one point, you and Jade are just are working on it, looking basically having like the engine uncovered, just sort of both of you just looking at it, and uh, Jade says, "Okay, I think this time, it is not going to explode."
I would like that.
I mean, last time I'm still coughing from the smoke that I inhaled, but I think we're good this time. So
Okay. I don't want to have to clean my goggles again.
yeah, should we try it?
Let's do it.
Okay. Alma just very conspicuously takes several steps back.
Yep. I mean, as she should.
Yeah.
This is just like for space car restoration. Like,
Yeah.
love it.
Bina, you step inside and sit in the pilot seat, and Jade sits next to you. He just sort of looks, says, "Okay."
Let's do it.
Yeah.
This is the time. I can feel it.
Mhm.
It's great. I've discovered. I have a sense. I can feel the emotions of vehicles, and this one's gonna like it. And I turn it over.
Yeah.
And
Jade pulls down his own goggles, which he has purchased during this time. He pulls
Good.
them down. He just
That's
says,
so cool.
"Okay. There's just this like heart-stopping moment where it hesitates as it's turning over, and you both like, and then it just sort of, you can feel the engine starting to like whir up, as Jade like, oh,
I turned to
Yeah.
two of her arms are facing, was shaking his by his
Yeah.
like jacket. So he's like, "Oh, I think we did."
yeah. He's, okay, wait here. And he like
Okay.
runs back outside to where the engine is still uncovered, and he's like looking at it. He says, "Okay."
good.
He comes in over the comms, so you can hear him. Says, "Okay, everything looks like it's running smoothly." He pauses for a moment. Says, "Yeah, that rattling is gone, so we're good." He says,
Nice.
"Okay,
Told you I could fix it.
yeah."
Fine.
He says, "It sounds
Rattle Queen. I got it.
it sounds great. I think we're good. I think we did it."
Nice.
He says, He says, "Next thing is, you know, taking it for a ride or something. You know, I mean, when we're ready, I guess."
I mean,
I
she
mean-
kind of like fake looks at a watch. I mean, I'm not busy. Are you?
He looks around at. He says, "I think I can clear my schedule," and he like removes his tool belt quickly and like looks around, and Alma just shakes her head and reaches out for it, and he hands it to her, says thanks, and then he runs back inside the and sits himself down and says, okay.
Okay, I need to find some navigation because Vina is not driven like landside on Sulon before, so we're gonna have to find an area in which we can go do this and not
Yeah.
be in a
I mean, you can find
fully crowded public place.
pretty easily, especially if this is a
The parking lot.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say like
donuts in a parking
the
lot.
equivalent of like an abandoned parking lot is pretty easy to find, mainly because
You see it on a drive.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and the two of you just like take a spin around this abandoned parking lot. And Jade is just ear to ear the whole time, just huge smile.
It's a full feedback loop of like incandescent joy. Like
Yeah,
Vina's gonna be like, "Mom," she's like, "Hey, watch this," and she's absolutely gonna like do a couple of donuts, at least 3 donuts.
yeah, yeah.
What do they call what would they be called here? Probably like maybe just like rings or like orbits or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if donuts exist in Infinite
Oh, come
Horizon
on.
canon.
Pizzas exist,
they
so
Pizzas?
donuts exist too.
Okay, cool. All right, whip some donuts.
That's canon now.
I love it.
All right, so yeah, you just flip a few, and Jade is just gleefully just cackling with joy. And she's,
Both of them still have goggles
Uh-huh.
on, like there's
yeah.
just pure joy.
Yeah. You when you finally bring it back, he goes, "Ooh." He says, "It has more kick than I thought it was going to. I like it."
Mhm. You're driving next time. I'm so excited about this. It's just-
Really? Says,
Yeah.
"Oh. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Have you driven a thing before?
I mean, just like our own vehicle at home,
Well,
but
I
that was
got you.
before. I mean, when we moved to the colony, there really weren't. I wasn't really allowed to drive those vehicles because
That's
they were colony property. So
We'll do driving lessons.
okay, yeah,
It'll be good. And well, are we back? Did we back in the ship? For this,
Yeah, at
is
this
that
point,
what
yeah.
You said okay, yeah. So she'll get out and
Mhm.
she'll like take some time to dust it off, get all the like she'll park it before we go in and like, get all the dust off so they don't bring like gravel into the into the docking bay. What did this be called? Is this just like the hold or is there a
yeah.
space
In the
that for
hold,
this?
yeah. It
Okay, in the hold.
yeah. It fits pretty well in the hold. There's a
We don't have a big enough ship for a docking bay. What am I saying?
no.
just
It's
the hold.
yeah. The center of the hold basically just like the way that larger cargo is lifted in and out is that the center of the hold, the floor lowers down essentially as like a cargo lift, and which is how you get the hovercraft in and out, and it is it also has some like cargo restraints that are easily adapted. Like they're designed to fit all sorts of hooks and restraints, so it can pretty easily be strapped in as well. All right.
We make it work.
So, are there other specific? Actually, we're getting kind of close to the end here. So, what I think I might do is, unless there's any pressing things that anybody wants to accomplish.
Peter wants to eat a lot of street food, but that doesn't.
Oh,
make
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, easily. There's going to be just sort of as a bunch of you are gathered in the apartment one night, Zaya included, as you are all just sort of seated around the dinner table, passing around like the boxes of food that have been brought in. Patch is sort of like surreptitiously examining some of the stranger food. As they look up to Mason, they say, "You eat this?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At least I do. That one's especially good.
Fascinating.
It needs more spice, though.
They lean back and just sort of watch you. Periodically, they'll like ask people to describe what things are like, just sort of like very curiously, like just intently staring at everybody as they're eating.
It's crunchy, but like really, really sweet. So like, it's really good. It's just really good. Wait, I hold on.
Hmm?
Can I like attempt to? So I know that Patch experiences emotion. Can I attempt to just come up with like equivalents for like flavors in emotions so I can like be like, okay, so like
You better.
spicy is like vaguely uncomfortable and like but like really good and like a satisfying feel. Like so she's gonna sit and I think try to like make things I don't know what it will be on his end because or on their end because she doesn't she knows they have a different equivalent for their emotions, but she's gonna try it anyways.
Yeah. Like, are you trying to like push those emotions and like have them experience them, or are you just
Yeah,
describing? Okay.
if they want, I mean, I'll
Yeah.
try. Like, I'll ask if they would want that, and that's gonna be how. Like, it's an. I mean, it's an food is an experience. It is.
Yeah.
It's more than just like words in your head. Like, it's yeah. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think she's gonna try to do that with Patch.
Yeah. You do it to the best of your ability. I love this. First of all. And during it, you can sort of you still haven't quite managed to crack Patch's emotions, but the best you can tell, they seem to be very much enjoying this whole
Oh, great.
experience.
Yes.
As yeah,
Love
they
that.
basically the moment you start doing it, they seem very surprised, and then as you start kind of doing it, then after a while they just sort of let you. I mean, at first they just sort of let you like do different things, and then after a while they start saying, "And what about that one? What about that one?" And then like.
Because I think right away Bean is bad at. I don't think like words. I don't think her describing a thing would be useful at all. But she's like, wait, I can do this. I can help in a different way. And I think that's kind of how.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. If there's something she hasn't eaten yet, she's like, wait, okay. And she'll have to like try it first and like think about it really hard, for, like a minute, and then she'll come up with something.
Yeah.
She'll ask for input maybe sometimes. Like, I don't know, you guys. I don't know how to differentiate. I don't know how to differentiate these two.
Yeah.
What's the difference? How do I emotionally make a difference?
Yeah, but the evening kind of passes like this. This has become a pretty like regular occurrence over the course of this month. Just the sort of the group dinner.
Family.
Everybody you invite Wire, but she always declines. And yeah, as at one point Zaya is just sort of like Peach. You notice that she's just sort of like looking over at her communicator and just periodically like looking over at it. Just
Expecting someone?
huh? Oh, huh. No, I just it's not really good that she's down there all the time by herself. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've still never succeeded in getting her out, but you know.
Oh yeah, I was gonna try to do that, wasn't I?
Right, something about having her experience fun for just a couple of hours. How's that going for you?
I don't know. Might be an activity for tomorrow if you're interested.
I could be persuaded.
Okay, well maybe we'll stop by Wire's place tomorrow morning.
Yeah. She just you see she smiles and then her like gradually her expression just sort of falls. She just says, "Maybe it's best that any attempts at fun happen when I am not there." I don't exactly put her in a relaxing mood these days.
Well, maybe that would be part of the goal of the day.
You trying to play matchmaker, princess?
No, I just it hurts you guys have so much like I could just feel so many unresolved things and it just makes me want to I don't know, not matchmake, just help out. Just
Yeah.
it's not healthy to leave all that stuff unsaid.
Oh, I agree, but her not so much. I listen. I appreciate it, but it's not really the kind of stuff that an afternoon of relaxation's gonna fix.
Hey, I just promised fun. I didn't promise mending all past wrongs in your relationship of all kinds. I just want Wire to leave where she's sitting and come out, and whatever hobby that you think that she might enjoy, we can have her do, whether she wants to or not.
Damn,
I think she'll want to.
damn, you really are a politician, aren't you? You just, uh, it's just,
Not currently.
just, well, I'm willing to try it. I don't expect much, but Jade, who's just sort of like shoveling food into his mouth, says, "Yeah, what happened actually?" Um, as Zaya just sort of looks at him, and he says, "Oh, I mean, you don't have to. She says, it's fine. It's history now." She says, "Well, I mean, I told you before that she got me out when she escaped. And I was one of their earliest test cases for this." And you watch as sort of like some of that sort of iridescent sort of blue energy starts to sort of courses up her arm and then dissipates. She says, "It's one of their earliest test cases, and she was an analyst. Caught wind of what they were doing and decided to get out. Took me with her. Thing is that happened in the escape. They weren't they weren't exactly willing to let us go, so they authorized use of deadly force to keep us in. Anything to keep us around rather than out here roaming free, I guess. And well, she lost the lower half of her arm in the process. It was ugly. She lost a lot of blood. I was amazed that she had survived. I carried her out of that place myself and took her to the only place that I knew to be safe, and got in contact with a local cybernetic expert. Got her patched up, and thing is, she had this whole plan, right? This whole plan for getting us completely off the grid. And the thing about being unconscious, though, for several weeks of recovery is that you can't quite make those things happen. So I kept us hidden, but not so much with other people. Her partner, he Silverbreak got to him while she was recovering. They were gonna get married in a month. She had a whole plan to get him and us off the grid. Didn't get around to any of it. And when she came back, she had her grieving, her mourning. She went through the stages of grief or whatever. But at the other end of it, she didn't come out with acceptance. She came out with a mission, a vendetta. That's why she's the way she is. We've had our moments, but I don't think she ever quite forgave me for choosing her. For forcing her to stay and recover.
You guys saved each other's lives. Even if she doesn't accept that, it's what happened.
Yeah, it's not really I wish it was her life that she was the most concerned about or that she weighed the most heavily. 'Cause she She'd never admit it, but she still blames me for his. I don't regret any of it. I'd do it all again.
So that's an awful thing for her to hold on to.
It's part of who she is now. Without this mission, I don't know that she'd know what to do with herself. I think she's forgotten what it was like to live without all that rage. This gives her a reason to still be breathing. Helps her justify it, I think. Thing is, I'd do it all again every time. And I'm always going to be there. But you can't compete with a corpse. Anyway, wow. This took a turn. Mason, is that thing empty yet? Thank you.
I was at that exact time going to kind of focus on the table and just playing upon whatever drink she wants most at the moment. I now, with my tiered up ability, I can actually make items like solid and like real.
Ooh.
Oh shit.
So I don't think it lasts for a ton. Like I think it lasts for like a certain amount of time, but she could still drink it and like feel the effects, but it, like the item would vanish after I think like a minute. Or no, I think it's an hour. I think an hour is when it vanishes.
All right.
I have to.
My God.
It sounds like the ultimate dieting plan.
Terrible.
No.
I don't know that I would go with that one. In the middle of all this, by the way, as you're kind of all conversing back and forth, all of your communicators go off simultaneously.
Boy.
As you look down, and you just see, in just like a scrolling text across your communicators, just says, urgent, need you all back at base. And Jade just goes, oh, I haven't even had dessert yet. Alma just reaches over. She says, "Here, wrap it up." And she grabs it and starts like putting it into one of the boxes and just hands it to him. So you all clear you clear out from the table, not bothering to clean up or anything, grabbing your stuff, making your way. A few minutes later, finds you at in the base. That's what I'm calling it this time. That's the most creative I can get right now.
Wires Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah. Wires Bungalow. No.
There it is.
You
Wires Bodega.
you find yourselves in there. She is currently when you come downstairs, you see that she's darting around the room looking at various screens. Several of them have alerts on them. She looks up. She sees. Good, you're here. Says, I don't know.
What's her emotional state currently? We walk into.
She is very concerned, and very confused. As she's like darting back and forth between these screens. She's, I don't know what's happening. I thought it was some kind of malfunction at first, but it keeps happening. She's, I'm detecting. I don't know. It's some sort of temporal ripple. I don't understand any of it. I've never seen anything like this.
What kind of what do you mean by temporal ripple?
I mean time. There's some sort of distortion in space-time right now, and I shouldn't even be able to detect any of this. I don't know what's. As she says, "Oh no!" As you watch one of the screens, you can see as like one of the displays is like like you can see like readouts growing, like numbers that are ticking up rapidly. And while you don't understand immediately what exactly you don't understand exactly what you're looking at, but the meaning of it is pretty clear as she's saying, "Oh no." And you feel like sort of a rumbling under your feet as you just feel this sort of you feel like these tremors running through the building. Um, and as you look around, you hear Jade say, "What the hell?" And as you turn and look, you can see like the air in the center of the room just distorting. Um, with a bright flash, there's just a there is a uh, discharge of the air itself that just blows most of you back, at the very least stumbling. Jade and Alma both like fall completely to the ground. And as like basically like you can see sparks flying as the lights in the room just dim down completely, and you're for a second in just complete pitch black.
Nope.
Yeah.
No pitch black.
Yeah.
Bina glow.
Bina begins glowing, and then you see as there's a click for a moment, and there's just this click, and you can see as the light starts slowly coming back on as backup systems pick up. You all sort of look around, and Jade sort of rubbing the back of his head, he says, "What was that?" As you look up, you see rising kind of from the center, the same place where the distortion was. You see an individual standing, dressed head to toe in sort of like what looks like some sort of environmental suit, with sort of like elongated sort of helmeted feature. They turn and say, "Oh no," and that's where we're gonna pick up next week.
Oh no.
Ah!
Oh
So
no.
I'm so excited.
this is as good a time as any to announce that next week.
Next game. Potentially next week.
Yeah, potentially next week, but next game, we are going to be joined by another guest. One of our friends over at Friends Who Roll Dice, Draconiques, or Drac. Drac is going to be joining us as a guest, and I'm very excited.
That'll be good. I was hoping that's where that was going, and now I'm so excited.
He and I have been planning this for a very long time. Sorry, what'd you say, Olivia?
I was very scared. That's better than where I thought that was going.
Yeah. So so I'm really looking forward to having Drac. He and I have been working on this character for a few weeks now. I'm very excited.
New superpowers. So excited.
Oh man. So that's where we are going to be picking up next time, potentially next week, but there's a chance that it won't be. We'll see. We'll keep you up to date.
Socials.
Yep. We'll keep you up to date. So, John, I hope you are around in the chat. I think you still are, because I'm about to rattle off some end of stream announcement stuff.
I can help too.
Perfect. So, if you liked what you saw here tonight, you can keep up with Infinite Horizon and catch up on all of these things on our YouTube channel or in podcast form.
Nope, just kidding. I don't actually know the commands.
Oh wow, no, those are the commands. I think I just have forgotten to give back privilege. Actually, hold on, I can do this.
I'm not allowed. Oh, thank you, mods.
All right, Geekouts got it. All right, thank you. So you can check out on the YouTube or in podcast form, which you can check out either right here in the link that is about to be in. Thank you, Geekouts. That is in the chat, or down here if you're watching on YouTube in the description. Next, if you like, you can support us on any number of platforms, such as Patreon, where you get access to a whole bunch of additional tabletop-based content, as well as additional content for our current shows, including but not limited to character journals and world-building opportunities. So
there's a Bina character journal coming.
There's a Bina character journal coming.
It sure is coming. It's a thing that will happen in an indeterminate amount of time.
So these are also available to those who subscribe here on Twitch and connect to the Discord, which we also have. So if you connect your Twitch account to the Discord, you can gain access to several of the rewards available to patrons. Next, we also have a coffee, which is a great opportunity for just sort of one-time low commitment donations to the channel. Help us keep things running, get cool stuff like emotes, and keeping just everything running. Which emotes are coming, by the way. They're in the works. They're in the works. Yes, we also have merch, which I believe Olivia is currently modeling. Yeah.
Oh,
I noticed earlier the little
that's so
the little sleeve thing. Yeah.
cool.
Can't really tell.
Yes,
from
the sleeve
Yeah.
thing is a yeah.
We love it.
They're
We're so excited about the sleeve.
Isn't it so comfortable?
so soft. Get all our smiling faces. Smiling mug here.
What are you talking about smiling?
So yeah. So
that was pretty good, Caitlin. That was better than me.
So these are just a few of the ways that you can support us, stay in contact, etc. Our next item of programming is going to be Ramblemancy. This week, we are going to be joined by Bree Dunnan talking about video games and video gaming.
Yeah.
So we're reprising an earlier conversation that we had a few months ago, coming back to it because it was so fun. So Bree will be joining us on Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific to talk about some video games. And I don't remember what we're doing for our Saturday stream. Keep an eye on the socials. I don't know if we're even doing one. I don't remember. It's written down somewhere. It's planned. My brain is broken. So
content's coming, and you'll get it at some point.
You guys are doing something cool.
I
think
we're doing something, or possibly nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
We'll have to wait.
The full spectrum of things we could be doing.
Yeah, just expect it all, and you will not be disappointed. Expect every possibility. Anyway, any other?
You could also put the guide in chat.
That's true. Thank you.
Which is a cool new thing we have.
It is. We have a cool new quick start guide to Infinite Horizon. So if you're brand new, just showed up, have no idea what's happening, and are finding yourselves, or just want a refresher.
There's a lot of weird words.
There's a lot of weird words that we made up in Writer's Room. But the good news is we also made up meanings for them, so it's not just random gibberish. So, all right, everybody.
Next section of just the names of Wire's lair.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to have a whole separate list for that. But
Anyone we can raid tonight?
Oh, good point. Actually, before we do that, I will say, Gemini Lightning. Yes, the you're welcome for using the term Duraga. So, just a quick thing on the subject of the Patreon and world building. Duragas are actually a creature within the world of Infinite Horizon that our world builders helped create, and the Duraga was one of them. And I believe that name in particular was supplied by Gemini Lightning during that world. So,
that's cool.
Thank you once again to our world builders, as always. I promise you, we are going to have our world building writers' room thing, and it is coming. It will absolutely happen this time.
So much. We'll get there.
Yeah. All right. So let's see who we got.
Erica Fermina, I believe, is streaming.
Okay. And I see.
Does anyone have any good recommendations in chat?
I see a few. Cystic. Jam is streaming again. That's cool. Let's see. Jam's offline. Okay. Well, I'm down with rating Erica. We've never rated Erica before. I don't remember the name of her channel. What is
A Style Pixie.
Right.
ASTYLEPIXIE. Looks like she's playing Ark.
Ah, yes. All right. So, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sticking around and with us. And
look at what happens when we end on time. We get to chat afterwards.
I know, it's on time, Caitlin. Just not half an hour late is what we consider on time. Yes, thanks everybody for hanging out, for sticking around with us, for just enjoying our content and inspiring us to make it as good as we can possibly make it. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time when you decide to come roll with us. Let's go raid Erica.
Good night.
night, everybody. All right, stick around for the raid. We're down in 5 seconds. Getting ready for that raid. Okay, here we go. We're going. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night and good zone.